Money sent home by Filipinos working abroad has been one of the reasons the Philippines' economy has been moving forward. You can say they're helping their country, but who is helping them manage their own money? Today, we talk about practical tips so that our country's heroes come home rich and happy. I'm Edric Mendoza, and this is On the Money. Our guest today is Nanette Ferreria, who was once an OFW herself, but is now Director of Money Doctors, a company that offers financial planning services. Hi, Nanette.
Hi, Edric.
Great stories.
Thanks.
Yeah, welcome
Yes.
to the show.
Thank you for inviting me over.
Sure,
Yes.
yeah. So let's talk about tips and tricks and maybe insights we can use for OFWs. I'll start off by asking, they say that the ideal savings for everyone is 70-30,
That's right.
but for OFWs, it's slightly different.
Their career timeline is quite short if you're an OFW. And because of that, ideally, they should be saving the opposite ratio. They should be spending only 30% of their income, and they should be saving 70%. But of course, that's kind of tough to do. So maybe what they can do is adjust. They can begin with a 50-50 ratio, and then when their salaries go up, they can actually go 40-60, meaning to say they spend 40% and save 60%. And then eventually, if they can move to 70% savings and 30% expense, that would be very ideal. In the ratios, in the expense ratio, you will see if they spend 50%, let's assume that we're going to compare an OFW and a non-OFW, somebody who stays home. Okay, the OFW earns $1,000 in the illustration, and the non-OFW earns $41,500, which is really the exchange rate. Okay, so if the OFW saves 50%, then he saves half of the 41. Okay, and the non-OFW will save only 30%. So assuming that they save and they invest the money and it earns 6% per year, by the time 15 years comes, the money of the OFW is at 6 million. And then compared to the non-OFW, the money there would be somewhere around 3 million.
Okay.
Okay, so you see the OFW has an advantage.
Yes.
But you see, because of your career timeline, which is really shortened, there's always a possibility, on average, OFWs work anywhere, the longest about 15 years on average.
Okay.
And if they stop working at the 15th year, therefore, they can no longer contribute. Okay, so if the money continues to grow, by the time he reaches age 60, which is his retirement, he would probably have anywhere between about 8 million. But you see, his counterpart who stays here, continues working, and continues saving money, will have somewhere around 8 million as well. But you see, the counterpart will have a retirement benefit from his company, which is about 5 million.
Okay.
And if you put the two together, he'll definitely be ahead of his OFW counterpart.
Net, no? It's
Yes,
very clear.
yes, that's
wow.
right.
So that's the reason why you're suggesting that they go to from the 50-50, they really expand it as best they can to 70-30.
Yes.
So you were an OFW yourself.
Yes, I was.
You were sharing that.
I was actually in my third year in college, and then I got an offer to work as a personal assistant. He was a diplomat, an Iranian diplomat, and I went to Iran and worked there.
Wonderful.
Yes, yes. And I mean, this point, actually, I remember I was 19 years old, and as soon as I got the thought that I would be going overseas, you know, it made me start dreaming of the many, many things that I felt I could accomplish.
Right, wow.
Things that I could buy, things that I could give to my siblings and my mom.
Yeah.
So it's really a wonderful time to dream when you're excited. Quite often, when people go overseas, the first thing they want to build is their house.
Okay.
Quite often, build a house, buy a car.
So by the time you get back, yeah.
Yes, those are the basic things. But I think there are things that are more important than buying the house first. It's very important for them, first of all, I believe, to build their emergency fund. And the ideal emergency fund should run anywhere between 12 months to 24 months.
So that's like saving aggressively. That's part of the first step of the 7, right?
That's right.
The second you said was like something like setting goals, which you've talked about.
Yes.
Is the emergency fund part of that?
Yes.
Okay.
The important goals that I would recommend would be to build your emergency fund. Okay. Number 2 is prepare for the education of your children.
Education.
If you're single, I know a lot of OFWs support their siblings. Okay, so you could prepare for the education of your siblings.
After the goals, you were saying keeping records?
Yes, keeping records is important. When you set your goals before you leave, I think it's very important that you actually meet up with whoever is your disbursing officer.
Disbursing officer,
yes, your
back home, right.
disbursement officer.
You also talked about automating where you
Yes.
can, as step number 4, yeah?
Yes, it's one of the things that make people think that they have excess money is when it happens that they only have one account and all the money is there for the food, for tuition, for all other expenses. What we usually recommend that you have a separate account for the household expenses. Set up a separate account for education. And that account can be for placed in an investment, not necessarily just in the bank, but you can actually put it into investment instruments.
Okay.
Okay, and your emergency fund also should be in a separate account. Because sometimes the advantage of that is it actually controls and sets a limit already. So if your monthly
Natural boundaries,
expense,
no? Yes. Okay. So and then you talked about investing and becoming financially literate. I mean, informing yourself as another step.
Yes, of course. Personal finance deals basically with cash management, the discipline of budget, and all that. But personal investing really is what's going to make you wealthy. Simply saving money will not make you wealthy, but if you know where to put the money, then
Make it grow, yes.
Yes, that's where you're going to grow and become wealthy.
Okay. So there's 2 more. The number 6 that you talked about had something to do with finding a process-based financial consultant or fee-based financial consultant. Do you want to expound on that?
There are 2 basic things that we work with our clients. We do personal finance and we do personal investing. When you work with a financial planner, you have someone to whom you become accountable to. You set your goals and then there's someone there who watches and makes sure that you will go implement your plan. So you have some sort of a coach with you who monitors and sees to it that your plan is actually implemented.
The last item you talked about was keeping money matters confidential.
Oh, yes. Quite often, the very first people that help you to dissipate all your savings are the people that are close to you.
Nako.
Yes.
The people that are close, okay.
Quite often, I hear of families saying they're going to get into business. And then when I ask them, who's going to give you the capital for the business? And they always say, oh, I have someone who's working abroad, and then he's going to send us some money.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's very important that you keep your financial matters confidential. But that is not to say that you do not share. Okay, but ideally, if you wish to share, then you also have a budget for sharing.
Excellent. We have more questions for you, Nanette, huh? But right now, we'll go to a short break. Stay with us. On the Money, we'll be right back.
Tell you a true story. My friend's dad saw a barbershop that cut hair for only 40 pesos, a savings of 20 pesos from his usual barber. So he goes in and was dismayed at the awful haircut. When he went out, he saw a sign on a barbershop on the opposite side of the street that says, "Nag-aayos ng pangit na gupit, 30 pesos lang."
When it comes to the way we look, we could easily blow our budget because how we look is closely connected to the way we feel about the world.
Salvi says it's not a bad thing to want to look good, but we need to be smart about this or we'll end up like my funny friend's dad. Filipinos working overseas are particularly vulnerable to the beauty bug. They spend a lot of their money on treatments that make their skin whiter, make their noses more Caucasian, even surgeries to fit in.
We're here with Hazel Gonzalez of HG Studio, a professional makeup artist and certified airbrush specialist. Is that right?
That's
Hazel?
right. That's right,
Hi,
Salve. Hi, Salve.
So Hazel, you've been a head beauty consultant at a high-end mall and high-end brands here in the Philippines. What would you say is the cost of staying and being beautiful?
Well, for surgical procedures, I know of someone who already spent in millions
Wow.
for her body enhancements.
So let's talk about surgical procedures, for example. We know that this is a trend right now. What would you say are the price ranges for surgical procedures, body enhancements? Breast augmentation, how much would that cost?
A friend told me that it ranges from 80 to 120 nowadays, depending on the kind of silicone being used.
You even mentioned there are non-surgical procedures that you can do. How much would these cost?
With the rate for this, the price difference for this, I don't think that there will be a lot of difference because with the rate, it's the only difference that I see here personally is that when you go through a surgical procedure, you would be paying it in full. But if you go through a non-surgical, since you would be doing this for months, even years continually, then you would be paying each and every time that you would be going there, or you would have to buy a package.
You're a specialist on airbrush makeup. Talk to me about it.
Airbrush makeup is the newest technology in the market today when it comes to makeup artistry. The advantages of airbrush is it has 18 hours in longevity, meaning if you would be attending a wedding, or if you would be doing an event or something really important that would entail a long period of time, this is really what's best for you because it entails very little or very minimal rather retouch. Of course, the first thing that you would be needing to retouch would be your lips because you speak, you eat.
Okay.
If you are planning to buy a machine for yourself, it is expensive.
Not a lot of people can afford this, so let's move on to makeup. It's a simpler thing that we can use to stay beautiful. What does it cost to buy something that's really on the high-end level? How much does it cost to have a Kikay kit that's high-end?
For a good quality
High-end
product with a powder
Everything
of
in it.
3,000
Okay.
and a lipstick of 2,005. That's we're running now at 5,500.
Five, just
yes.
2 items here.
Just 2 items.
How about mid-range level?
So these are the ones that are offering a range from 500 to 1,000, say
Per item.
1,200 per item.
So how about the rest of the people who want to be beautiful but do not have the budget, don't want to spend a lot of money on staying pretty?
It is possible. There are brands that you could use that are not even in mid-range. These are the, I don't want to say, more affordable.
Keep your beauty budget reasonable. That 150,000 tummy tuck budget could fund your child's college education in a reputable school, given an 8% compounded return for 10 years.
It's easier to be pretty when you don't have money problems. So watch what you spend on your looks, because as they say, you can't really buy real beauty.
Still with us is Nanette Ferreria, Director of Money Doctors, a company that offers financial planning services. She will answer some of the questions you sent to us via email, Twitter, and Facebook. And of course, Melissa Hekulea has those questions. Hi, Mel.
Hi, Edric. Hi, Nanette.
Hi, Melissa.
So we've got a lot of questions for you today, and the first one is from Twitter, from Dondi. He asks, my relatives expect me to spend for all gatherings when I come home. Is it okay for me to hide from them?
That's a funny question. Yes, of course.
But you can understand where he's coming from, right?
Exactly.
I mean, from the tone, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I think to hide from anyone is your prerogative.
Right.
You may, it's your option. However, you might get caught in a situation where you can no longer hide from them. And then I think being honest, being straightforward, and saying that I do have a budget, I think everyone will understand that. No? So let's say, for example, you're in a gathering and you're willing to add up to the budget, then say I'm only up to 10,000 here, or I'm only up to 5,000 here. I think that's important.
That's fair.
Yes, and what happens is everybody now becomes aware that you know your priorities, and they should also begin to copy from you, and you transfer that kind of habit where you set limits to expenses all the time.
Right, right. So they should respect that he can't spend for everybody.
Yeah.
Yes, I was sharing with Edric earlier. Some people think that when you work abroad, it's as if you have an endless supply
stream,
of money.
Like you're a money tree, yeah.
Yes.
And you shouldn't look like a giant money bag to them.
Right.
It's not fair. Okay, well, we have another question. This comes from Eddie via Facebook. He says, I am working in Saudi on a rotational basis of 6 weeks work and 3 weeks off in the Philippines. My employer is an American company, and I've been with them for the last 20 years as a maintenance engineer. I make at least $80,000 a year and sometimes more. What types of businesses can I invest in? I already have a 4-story residential building that will soon have a laundry shop, water purifying station, salon, and gym. I'm thinking of putting up a 6-story building beside it and installing an elevator to service both structures. Would it be good to borrow money from the bank to finance the 6-story building, or should I just save from now on and wait for 2 years to start building?
If he has someone whom he can trust to do the construction, then I guess it's okay to go ahead.
Right.
Okay. However, if he does not have anyone whom he can trust, then I think it's important for him to just invest the money and wait. To finance, again, is a similar answer. However, I think it will depend. If he has the cash sufficient to build the building at this stage, then it would be all right for him to build. However, there's an advantage today because loan rates today are very low. Okay, so if he'd like to take advantage of the loan rates and then invest his money where his money will make more than the interest rate on borrowing, then it will be more advantageous for him to just invest the money and then just borrow from the bank.
And then he asks, what types of businesses should he invest in?
Ideally, people have always asked us when they're overseas, to whether they should invest in this business or that business. You know, investing in business is really the highest form, one of the highest forms of risk. There's a lot of things for you to contend with. You have to have capital, sufficient capital. You have to have a marketing strategy. You have to have good products. You have to have a lot of things. You have to have good management skills for all of these. Now, if he does want to invest and he doesn't have anyone to trust, to handle the business, to make sure that the business will run properly and will begin to make a profit, then I would suggest otherwise. Invest your money in financial instruments, and then when you're back here, then you can be hands-on in the business.
We have another question, and this comes via Twitter from Bambi. She asks, I started working in Japan 2 years ago, and my question is whether my insurance in the Philippines will cover me if something happens to me here. It's a whole life policy that I bought from one of the leading insurance firms.
The answer is yes. It will cover you wherever you are.
Okay.
A whole life insurance policy will cover you anywhere. Yes.
Okay. We actually have another question. Amina 2009. She sends this via email. She says, I graduated from college a few years ago and find it very hard to get a good job here. I am thinking of working abroad, but the situation in the US and Europe scares me. They say it's the age of Asia now. What country in Asia provides the best work environment for young people?
Well, I do have friends in Singapore, I have friends in China, and I have people I know who work in Japan. So I believe that whatever the economic condition, for as long as an opportunity presents itself to you, I still see and have some friends who are still making it in the US and the UK, in Europe.
Right.
So it will really depend. The general economic situation may affect several, but not all industries
Yes.
will always be down at any one point in time. There will be always industries that are up.
Okay, so she should look, I suppose, at the strong economies in Asia.
Yes.
For jobs there, and medical, BPO, IT, manufacturing.
That's right.
Those are
That's
all
right,
good
Melissa.
industries for
Yes.
her. Okay, thank you so much, Nanette.
You're welcome, and thank you for inviting me.
Thanks.
Yes.
Anyway, send us your money questions via email or through Facebook and Twitter, and we'll try to answer them in our upcoming episodes or on our next Q&A Friday.
Nanette, Mel, great show. That's our show today. I'm Edric Mendoza. Join us again tomorrow for more talk and tips so you're always right on the money.